Before the intention, before the ritual, before the words ever touched paper, you were already speaking to the universe, not through sentences, not through thoughts, but through frequency. Every breath you've taken, every time your heart raced with emotion, every unconscious posture, every sigh, every moment of stillness, it's all been communication. Because here's the truth. The universe doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to what you mean. And meaning isn't always verbal. In fact, the deepest meaning, the real transmission, is energetic. You've been taught to believe you need special words, that the universe needs to be instructed like a machine, that you have to do something extra to be noticed, heard, blessed. But it's not like that. The universe is not outside of you. It's inside the tone you carry. Beneath every thought, every movement, every silence, you are always in the conversation. The only question is, what tone are you speaking in without knowing? Think of a singer humming in an empty cathedral. The sound echoes, not because she demands it, but because the space responds to tone. That's you, and that's life. You are the hum, the field is the cathedral, and what comes back is simply the reflection of what you already are. Your reality is not reacting, it's resonating. And so this journey isn't about learning new tricks. It's about remembering your original language, the one your soul spoke before it ever learned to fear, perform, or chase. Over the next chapters, you'll remember 7 sacred languages, not steps, not hacks, but frequencies that are already within you, waiting to be activated. Fire, water, breath, movement, food, writing, earth. Each one is a forgotten dialect. Each one is a sacred tone. Each one teaches you this. You were never just speaking to the universe. You were always speaking as it. So today, you stop trying to say the right thing, and you start becoming the right signal, because when you change the tone, the echo rewrites itself. You didn't arrive here by accident. You weren't thrown into existence as a blank slate. You came through the veil with something sacred, a frequency signature. It's not tied to your name, not to your role, not to your struggles or dreams. It's deeper. It's what you are beneath all of that. You see, long before this body, this time, this identity, your soul carried a tone, a unique rhythm, a spiritual signature, a pattern in the field that only you emanate. And that tone, it still speaks, whether you're aware of it or not. Every time you feel pulled towards something with no explanation, that's your original frequency remembering itself. Every time you know something without proof, you're hearing the echo of your pre-verbal alignment. You are not becoming. You are remembering. And this memory isn't stored in your brain. It's in your energetic field, in your pull toward truth, beauty, wholeness, and flow. Most people lose that signal as they grow. They get told what to want, what to chase, how to speak, who to become, and slowly, they forget the soul tone they came here with. But here's the miracle. Energy doesn't die. It just waits for you to return. That's what this journey's about. You're not learning how to talk to the universe. You're reactivating the part of you that never stopped communicating, the part that spoke in vibration long before you had a voice. So don't look forward for the signal. Look inward. What are the sensations that calm you for no reason? What are the places, people, sounds, and feelings that remind you of something you can't quite name? That's your original language. And when you reconnect to that, you no longer speak from doubt. You speak from source memory. The universe doesn't need you to find your voice. It just needs you to stop pretending you weren't born with one. Fire doesn't whisper, it declares. It doesn't wait for your permission. It consumes with clarity, with force, with divine finality. And that's what makes it the first of the 7 sacred languages. Fire is the language of surrender, of release, of transmutation. When you offer something to flame, a belief, a wound, a version of you that can't walk with what's next, you are not destroying it. You are returning it to energy. Because in the field, nothing is truly lost. It is either carried or transformed, and fire is the agent of that transformation. You don't burn paper to watch smoke. You burn to create space. Space for clarity, space for power, space for your next identity to land. When you give your resistance to the flame, you are saying to the universe, I trust the unknown more than I trust the past. It's not the fire that's magic. It's the moment of full release. The moment when your body stops clenching. When your energy stops circling old stories. When you no longer need to hold the version of you that was built on survival. This is not symbolic. This is real vibrational collapse. The soul knows when something is done, but the mind keeps dragging the weight forward. So light the fire, burn the doubt, burn the plan, burn the outdated self-concept, but do it with awareness, with reverence, with the energy of, I'm not doing this to get something, I'm doing this to free something. Because the fire is not an ask, it's a signal. And that signal is powerful. This soul is done pretending. It's ready to walk empty, ready to become firelight in motion. And what's left in the ashes? Not absence, but readiness, alignment, truth. This is why every ancient rite began with a flame, because fire clears the altar so the divine can enter. And when you become the one who no longer needs to hold what's expired, you become a field the universe can finally fill. Water never resists. It doesn't argue with rocks or debate gravity. It moves quietly, steadily, truthfully. And that's why water is the second sacred language. Not because it's passive, but because it teaches the most overlooked spiritual truth. Feeling is a frequency. We've been taught to control emotion, to manage, suppress, intellectualize, to hide tears, to numb disappointment, to skip grief in favor of high vibes. But in doing that, you don't silence the signal, you scramble it. Because what the universe hears isn't your words. It hears your willingness to be real. Emotion isn't a weakness, it's a vibration in motion, a living transmission of who you are, right now. And the more you allow emotion to move through you, not in chaos, but in reverence, the more your field becomes fluid, honest, powerful. When you cry consciously, you're not breaking, you're cleansing, you're washing the lens of your perception clean. Tears aren't a leak, they're a message. They say, this soul feels deeply. This soul doesn't fear its own depths. This soul is transparent enough to be heard. Water doesn't beg to be noticed. It simply flows, and in doing so, it reshapes mountains. This is the power of aligned emotion. When you feel grief, and stay open. When you feel joy, and don't hold back. When you feel longing, without clinging, you are speaking the purest language of resonance, uninterrupted frequency flow. So don't dry the tears too fast. Don't bottle the emotion to protect your spiritual image. Let it come, let it move. Let it wash through you, because the field doesn't need your perfection, it needs your truth. And truth always flows. So bathe in silence, pray in tears, drink with presence, feel without apology, and know every time you allow the current to move, you become a cleaner, clearer conductor for creation itself. Most people eat without thought, rush through meals, multitask, scroll, chew with tension. But in spiritual law, how you eat is as important as what you eat. Because food is not just fuel, it's a frequency mirror. It's the moment where you say, this is what I allow to enter me. This is how I let life support me. This is the quality I believe I'm worthy of holding. Every bite is a vibrational imprint. Every sip is a small agreement with life. Yes, I am safe to receive. Yes, I trust the nourishment. Yes, I honor the exchange. This is why in so many ancient cultures, meals began with prayer. Not because the food needed a blessing, but because you did. Not blessing in a religious sense. Blessing as alignment. Gratitude recalibrates your tone. It shifts your field from lacking to living. So when you sit to eat, don't just count macros. Count frequencies. Are you rushing? Are you ashamed? Are you judging yourself with every bite? Then you're not receiving, you're resisting. And resistance blocks all forms of abundance. Not just food, but when you pause, when you breathe, when you look at the food in front of you like it's sacred, because it is, you begin to speak the language of gratitude, not with word, but with receptivity. It doesn't matter if it's a feast or a single piece of bread. What matters is the tone you carry when you take it in, because the field listens closely to how you handle even the smallest offering. So eat slowly. Eat like the moment is holy. Eat like you are already supported, because you are. And as you do, you speak a quiet but powerful message to the universe. I no longer rush life. I let it enter me with peace. I don't just consume, I honor. And when the universe hears that tone, it doesn't just feed you, it starts flowing toward you. You speak to the universe with your voice, but the truth of your tone is heard through your breath, because breath is what lives between thought and silence, between doing and being, between form and formlessness. I am here. I am open. I release control. I don't need to hold this anymore. That is the language of breath. It doesn't beg. It doesn't force. It doesn't plead. It simply flows. And in that flow, the universe hears your permission to rearrange everything. This is why every sacred tradition, from Eastern pranayama to Christian contemplation to indigenous wind rituals, honors breath as the bridge to the divine. Because the breath is the first gift you received, and every time you return to it with reverence, you reconnect with your original alignment. The inhale says, I receive this life. The exhale says, I give back my fear. That's not poetic. That's energetic physics. So the next time you feel stuck, don't search harder. Breathe softer. The next time you don't know what to say, exhale fully. Because sometimes the clearest message you can send to the universe is this: I am willing to stop holding what blocks me. And when your breath becomes a conscious offering, you stop speaking from effort and start vibrating with truth. Let every breath be a bridge. Let every exhale be a release. Let every inhale be a remembering that the life you're asking for is already moving through you. Your body is not decoration. It is not separate from the spiritual. It is not just the house of the soul. It is the amplifier of your signal. We've been taught to focus on words, to journal, to affirm, to pray. But here's the secret. You are always moving. And every movement is a message. How you rise in the morning, how you sit in silence, how you walk into a room, how you stretch, reach, bow, or breathe. Each motion carries an energetic imprint. You can't fake it. The field isn't reading your intentions. It's reading your embodiment. You might be affirming worthiness with your mouth, but if your shoulders are slouched, if your chest is collapsed, if your walk is hesitant, you're sending mixed signals. This is why movement is sacred. Not performance, not choreography, but honest alignment through the body. Dance isn't always celebration. Sometimes it's activation. Sometimes it's remembrance. Sometimes it's saying, I'm no longer frozen in fear. Your ancestors knew this. Tribes moved in circles to ground identity. Mystics swayed in trance to dissolve the mind. Warriors trained with breath and balance, because movement shapes presence. So what are you moving like? Are you walking like someone who trusts the path? Are you sitting like someone open to receive? Are you carrying your spine, your feet, your hands with the frequency of your future self? Because here's the truth. Movement is not separate from manifestation. It is participation in the field. When your body is coherent, your energy becomes louder, cleaner, unmistakable. So move with awareness. Stretch like you're preparing to carry more. Walk like you're being watched by your own destiny. Stand like the version of you who no longer doubts their place in this life. Because your body doesn't lie, and the universe listens to every gesture. There's a difference between talking about your life and authoring it. Most people write to reflect what has been. But in sacred communication, you write to command what now is. Because when you write with awareness, you imprint intention into reality. You collapse thought into form, not by force, but by clarity. A sentence carries more weight than most realize. It is energy, framed. It is vibration, crystallized. It is a spell, not in the magical sense, but in the metaphysical one. Words focus energy, and focused energy creates outcomes. So when you write as someone who already knows, you are sending the universe a clean, unambiguous signal. This is what I embody. This is what I welcome. This is who I have already become. But here's the part most miss. It's not the act of writing that matters. It's the state you write from. If you journal from lack, you're amplifying absence. If you script from panic, you're leaking confusion into the field. But if you write from stillness, presence, and truth, then every line becomes a frequency marker. You're no longer journaling, you're architecting. So when you sit with pen in hand, ask, what would my future self write right now? What would someone who knows write? Not someone who wishes? Don't edit. Don't try to sound spiritual. Don't try to impress your shadow. Just speak energy into ink, with rhythm, with reverence, with identity, because you're not writing a story. You're revealing your signal. And when the signal is clean, the echo can't help but arrive. Write not to hope, write to anchor. Write like your soul is handing instructions to the universe. Not to ask, but to confirm, I am already this. The trees don't chant. The rivers don't script. The wind doesn't visualize its flow. And yet, they manifest alignment every moment, not by trying, but by being. This is why nature is a sacred language. It's not here to perform. It's here to mirror back to you what it looks like to simply belong, to occupy space without apology, to cycle through seasons without resistance, to give and receive in perfect rhythm. You're not separate from it. You never were, but you've been taught to believe you were. That's why when you touch soil, walk barefoot, watch leaves fall or water flow, you feel something ancient move in you. Not because it's foreign, but because it's familiar. You are made of this. And when you remember that, you begin to communicate with the field again in a language older than words. Offering, presence, exchange. Place a flower on the ground, not to manifest, but to honor. Return a stone to a river, not to ask, but to rebalance. Give something back to the earth, not because it needs it, but because your soul does. This is not performance, it's sacred reciprocity. Because when you start giving from your wholeness, not your hunger, you stop attracting from desperation. You start resonating with grace. Nature is the clearest place where the universe whispers, you don't have to do more. Just remember what you are. And when you give back with your attention, your presence, your breath, you're saying, I'm not just a seeker, I'm a participant. I'm not just here to take, I'm part of the current. I remember, and in that remembering, your vibration becomes unmistakable. Not loud, but clean. Not desperate, but devoted. And the universe, always listening, gently replies, welcome back. You can light all the candles, burn all the herbs, script every morning, moonbathe, ground, affirm. But if your identity isn't aligned, none of it matters. Because ritual is not power, it is amplification. It doesn't change your signal, it projects it more clearly, and that's why this section exists. To reveal the moment when you stop seeing the ritual as a tool and realize you are the tool, you are the altar, you are the living broadcast. It was never about the matchstick, the crystal, or the mantra. It was always about the tone behind the gesture. You see, you can't manipulate the universe with ceremony. You can only meet it at the level of your truth. And if your truth is, I'm still afraid, the flame can't hide that. If your tone is, I still don't believe I'm worthy, no journal entry can override it. This isn't harsh, it's sacred clarity. Because when you get this, when you stop outsourcing your signal to the ritual, you step into the real seat of power. You realize I don't need the ritual to work because I am what makes it work. You become the prayer, the practice, the temple, the sacred space. You walk into the room and shift energy, not because of what you did that morning, but because of what you now carry. So do the rituals if you want, but don't depend on them. Know that your breath, your tone, your gaze, your silence, those are the real invocations. The deeper your identity aligns with what you claim, the more sacred everything becomes. Drinking water, typing a message, sitting on your porch at dusk. These are not breaks from spiritual work. These are the work. Because when your frequency becomes consistent, life no longer waits for ritual. It flows toward your stillness, your walk, your wordless permission, because now the ritual is walking, and it looks like you. You've lit the fire, moved with presence, written your truth, given your offerings. Now, you stop, not because you're done, but because now the field takes over. Silence isn't the absence of communication. It is the highest form of it, because when you become still, when your body relaxes, when your breath softens, when your mind stops reaching, your signal becomes pure. No contradiction, no effort, no static, just energy, refined to its core. You see, most people talk to the universe out of habit. They speak, affirm, ask, visualize, again and again, not realizing that what they call alignment is actually interruption. Because alignment doesn't chase, it rests. Silence is what follows trust. It's not passivity, it's resonant certainty. When you stop trying to get the signal right, you finally start broadcasting one that's clean. That's why the mystics go quiet. That's why the saints sit in stillness. That's why the most powerful prayers are the ones without sound. Because silence doesn't beg. It declares, it says, I've said all I need to say. Now I will let the universe do what it's already doing. And when you sit in that stillness, not to manipulate, not to test, but to allow, you become a magnet for alignment. You become a channel with no blockage. You become the embodiment of the wish fulfilled. Because silence isn't waiting, it's knowing. So when the desire rises again, pause. When the doubt creeps back, breathe. When your old self wants to hustle for clarity, return to the quiet. Because the field is not powered by your volume. It is shaped by your vibration. And your vibration speaks loudest when your mouth is closed and your soul is still. Desire isn't wrong, it's natural. But if desire becomes desperation, your frequency becomes incoherent. You think you're asking, but energetically you're pleading. You're saying, I don't have this. I hope it comes. I need proof. And the universe, it doesn't respond to words. It responds to tone. That's why resonance is everything. Resonance is identity embodied. It's living in such a way that the field can't help but mirror you. You don't need to shout louder. You don't need to force clarity. You don't need another affirmation loop. You need to become the tone of your desire, not once, not for 10 minutes after a meditation, but consistently, like it's who you already are. That's the shift from asking to resonance. Asking says, please. Resonance says, it's done. Asking says, do you hear me? Resonance says, I am the frequency. You can't not hear me. And here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you stop needing it is the moment you align with it. Because you're no longer sending the energy of lack. You're radiating the energy of arrival. And the universe is always eavesdropping on what you believe is already true. So check in. Are your actions matching your embodiment? Are your thoughts matching your self-concept? Are your silent assumptions aligned with your outer rituals? Because if not, no amount of trying will clean your signal. But when it's clean, when your walk, your thoughts, your stillness, and your choices all say, I'm already there, then the field becomes unmistakably responsive. So say less, resonate more, live like the signal already landed, move like someone who needs no reply. That's not delusion, that's alignment. And alignment is louder than words. Look around you, not with blame, not with panic, with precision. What is life showing you? Because it's not just showing you what's happening. It's showing you who you're being. Everything is feedback. Everything is energetic accuracy. You see delays? Check your doubt. You see scarcity? Check your self-perception. You feel overlooked, undervalued, unseen? Check the tone you've normalized inside your identity. Because here's the sacred law. The world doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. Consistently, unconsciously, without exception. This isn't punishment, it's precision. Reality isn't withholding from you. It's echoing back the frequency you're still broadcasting, even when you think you're doing everything right. So affirmations won't override a tone of unworthiness. Gratitude journals won't mask an identity that believes it's invisible. Visualizations won't override a nervous system rooted in fear. That's why the real work isn't external. It's vibrational. It's not about getting the next manifestation tool. It's about asking, what energy is my reality reflecting right now? And do I take responsibility for that mirror? Not as guilt, but as creative power? Because once you do, once you stop treating the outer world like a mystery, you gain your agency back. You stop reacting. You start recalibrating. You see each situation as a speaker playing your frequency back to you. Want more love? Become more love. Want more abundance? Drop your attachment to scarcity. Want faster results? Let go of the impatience that's jamming your signal. The field is neutral, but it is never random. So let your current reality be a teacher, not a verdict. Let it show you what you're emanating. Because the truth is, life isn't trying to get in your way. It's showing you the way by showing you yourself. You can say the mantra, you can journal 10 pages, you can light the sage, arrange the altar, hold the crystal, and still nothing shifts. Why? Because the ritual isn't the power. The self behind it is. The universe doesn't respond to ritual. It responds to resonant identity. You can't fake alignment. You can't act your way into manifestation. You can't cleanse your space if your self-concept is still vibrating in lack. Ritual is not a shortcut, it's a magnifier. It amplifies what you are, not what you pretend to be. So if you script with desperation, you amplify fear. If you meditate with a clenched jaw, you anchor resistance. If you visualize with the subtle belief that you're not enough without the result, you're projecting need, not power. That's why the sages repeat one truth over and over. It is not the practice that saves you. It is the state of being you bring into the practice. So pause here. Ask yourself, am I performing or embodying? Do I need the ritual to prove I'm spiritual? Or does my frequency already speak loud enough? Because here's what changes everything. When your identity is clean, when your tone is coherent, when your alignment is silent but steady, you don't need the ritual. You become the ritual. And if you choose to script, chant, cleanse, or light candles, you do it as a mirror of your inner certainty, not as a substitute for it. Ritual becomes expression, not effort. Art, not manipulation. Because the field isn't watching what you do. It's listening to who you believe you are. Even when you're not doing anything at all, you've done the work. You've aligned your rituals. You've tuned your tone. You've stopped begging and started resonating. But if even a fraction of you is still seeking, you're still postponing the truth. Because here is the deepest realization. Need is separation, and as long as you're trying to get energy, you've forgotten that you already are it. Wanting to attract clarity, wanting to feel high vibe, wanting to be in flow, all of these are subtle affirmations that you're not those things yet. But the soul doesn't become the energy. The soul remembers it is the source of it. There is nothing to chase, nothing to gain, only resonance to relax into. And when you release the chase, when you stop treating alignment as something outside of you, you begin to embody the one vibration that magnetizes everything: wholeness. Wholeness doesn't ask, It allows. It doesn't reach. It receives. It doesn't perform. It simply is. When you reach this point, you stop using spirituality as a self-improvement project. You stop confusing effort with evolution. You stop trying to reach a better state because you recognize this moment, right now, is already enough. I am already enough. And in that enoughness, you stop needing signs. You stop needing proof. You stop needing the universe to respond because there is no difference between you and it. You are the frequency. You are the source. You are the signal and the receiver. So now the work isn't to do more. It's to remember more clearly and to live more simply, to carry stillness into your walk, to breathe without needing to fix anything, to speak only when the signal is full, to rest when your body says, I already gave enough. You stop chasing the sun when you remember that you are light. And that's when reality changes. Not because you forced it, but because you finally matched the energy of a soul that never needed more, to already be everything. There was a time when you weren't asking, you weren't chasing, you weren't seeking to attract anything. You simply were, not in form, but in tone, a unique frequency that the field recognized instantly. It didn't need proof. It didn't need credentials. It didn't need to earn its place in the universe. It vibrated, and the universe responded. And that vibration still exists, beneath your wounds, beneath your habits, beneath every self-concept you've built to survive. Your original tone remains untouched. This is why certain people, places, and moments feel like home, even when you can't explain why. It's not nostalgia. It's resonance with your pre-verbal self. That self never doubted, never waited, never questioned whether it was worthy of being heard. It simply spoke, not in language, but in light. And here's the miracle. The universe never stopped listening, even when you forgot yourself, even when you operated from fear, even when you asked from separation. The universe continued to orbit your true tone. It kept bringing you the people, mirrors, triggers, and moments that would remind you, you are not here to become, you are here to return, not to who the world told you to be, but to the frequency you've always been. So now, at the edge of all this remembering, ask less, close your eyes, breathe softly, and listen. What's the tone underneath your thoughts? What's the rhythm underneath your effort? What's the light underneath your name? That's the truth, and that's what the universe aligns to, not your performance, but your origin. The most powerful signal you'll ever send is the one that says, I'm not asking for what I want. I'm living as what I've always been. Every ritual you've done, every breath you've taken, every quiet moment of trust, it's all been building toward this. The knowing that you are not a messenger. You are the message. You don't speak to the field. You vibrate through it. You don't pray for alignment. You carry it in your posture. You don't request miracles. You move like they already arrived. This is not pretending. This is remembering. Remembering that the words on the page were never the power. The candles, the motions, the symbols, they were mirrors. What the field responds to is who you are when you walk into the room. Not your voice, your tone, not your image, your identity. You are not the one waiting for signs. You are the frequency that speaks them into form. You are the intention that reshapes the timeline. You are the silence that speaks louder than noise. You are the embodied I am that doesn't just manifest, it magnetizes by existing. And when you reach this awareness, when you no longer need to perform, persuade, or pursue, you become a living signal, a human ritual, a walking declaration that says, I remember, I am not separate, I am not small, I am the vibration that reality shapes itself around. You are the voice, not the words, the origin. And when the voice becomes still, whole, and coherent, the universe listens with reverence. You've walked the circle, from desire to stillness, from ritual to rhythm, from effort to embodiment. And now at the center, there is no longer anything to do, only something to be. The fire has burned, the breath has softened, the offering has been made, the silence has spoken, the tone has settled. Now, you become the echo of everything you've remembered, not because the universe replied to you, but because you finally became quiet enough to hear. You were always the reply. Every sign you chased, you now reflect. Every energy you tried to attract, you now carry. Every alignment you tried to manifest, you now walk in. And the field, it doesn't send confirmation, it sends resonance, which means the version of you who stopped asking became the vibration that answers others. You are no longer just in conversation with the divine. You are the echo of the divine remembering itself as form. And when you live from this place, you don't force, you don't explain, you don't seek validation. You simply move as truth. You breathe as clarity. You offer no performance, only presence. The echo you send now doesn't ripple from effort, but from stillness held long enough to dissolve the illusion of needing anything else. So here we end. Not with a final word, but with a tone that never began and will never end. The tone of a soul who has stopped broadcasting confusion and now simply radiates coherence. You are the voice. You are the echo. You are the field. You are the frequency. You are the prayer. And now you walk forward, not to ask, but to remember.